The Buffalo Bills beat the Kansas City Chiefs last week, so a matchup against the 2-7 Miami Dolphins should be a cakewalk, right? We'll let you know what happened next.
The clock may have hit zero, but the conversation is just kicking off. This is Locked On NFL Game Night. From the early window thrillers to the 4 o'clock fireworks, and of course the Thursday night spotlight, we've got you covered with all the jaw-dropping touchdowns, head-scratching calls, and the hot takes you'll be talking about tomorrow. You'll find it all here every week. The game may be over, but the conversation is just getting started. This is Locked On NFL Game Night.
What is up, everybody? Michael Fabiano here. You can call me Fabs. He is Swipa, and welcome to Locked On NFL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Now the #1 sports podcast network. Yes, sir. Swipa, what's up, brother?
Man, I'm living, man. I feel like Jonathan Taylor, man. I'm ready to run through everything.
You did do that, man, in that game in Germany, and we're going to get to that game and a lot more. And as always, of course, we thank you for listening to Locked On NFL Game Night, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're recapping all the action from today's NFL slate with insights from local experts the way only Locked On can. And on tonight's show, we'll hit on why the AFC is still completely up for grabs after Buffalo Bills decided not to show up in a matchup in Miami. Then we'll talk about why Jonathan Taylor bolstered his MVP candidacy in Germany in a huge overtime win over the Atlanta Falcons. And we'll finish up with Caleb Williams bringing the Chicago Bears back from what would have been a really bad loss and taking out the New York Giants. We've got all that for you and more, and we appreciate you for making us your first listen and being an everyday listener on the show, which is part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And Swipe, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app, so make sure you check it out. All right, Swipa, the Buffalo Bills went to Miami. They were a 9.5-point favorite, and it seemed like after beating the Kansas City Chiefs that wiping out the Dolphins would be easy, but they got their butts totally kicked. Yes, maybe I sound a little bit like Jim Moore there, by the 2-7 Dolphins. And the NFL is drunk again. For more on this one, let's go to Kyle Krabs with Locked On Dolphins.
Who this Miami Dolphins team is, but I like it. The Dolphins in Week 10 coming home with a rare win against the Buffalo Bills, scoring 30 points against Buffalo for the first time in the Mike McDaniel era. The irony here, of course, is Miami is a team that everybody has written off, and rightfully so. They are now 3-7 on the season, but the way in which Miami played this football game stands out to me because Miami so often against Buffalo has pressed to try to race to points and play fast and throw the ball all over the field. Miami stayed patient with the run game in this contest, and it pays off. A couple of explosive runs in the fourth quarter pop, and Miami scores 30 points, brings home a dove to move their record to 3-7, and will now head overseas to play the Commanders without Jaden Daniels next week.
Simple as this, Devon Achane, he continues to prove all of the doubters wrong, and including me. I always thought he was good, but 174 yards rushing, y'all, that is insane. 51 receiving yards on top of that, 2 touchdowns. And you know what I realized watching today? He is DeAnthony Thomas. So, I mean, a lot of people don't remember DeAnthony Thomas at Oregon. He was supposed to be this super fast, super electric runner that you could do all the gadget stuff with, but also get him in between the line to go dominate. And that's what Achane is. You know, he came out of A&M, third round pick, I believe, and everybody kind of said, well, that's a nice gadget player, like he's gonna be good. Well, it turns out that Achane has been, borderline elite. Like, you have your MVP status with Jonathan Taylor and then James Cook for most of the season. Like there's a clear category, CMC, Bijan, but then right underneath that is where Devon Achane lands. And I think right where Jahmyr Gibbs is, he has been phenomenal. He was great today. Tua didn't do a lot. He had some bad picks in there. But look, I'm going to tell you this. The first half of the game, when he needed to make the plays, he did. He hit Jalen Waddle in a beautiful stride down the field. So I'm happy for the Miami Dolphins, man. I'm glad they got a win, but I truly do not know what to think about the Buffalo Bills. Now, Josh Allen had 306 and 2 tubs today. Only a 28.9 QBR. I did not think that was a good game from Josh for at least 3/4 of it, but then he kind of got his numbers in the fourth quarter there. James Cook got stymied today. I don't know what to think of this Bills team. They're 6-3, but I don't know if they're actually a contender in the AFC at this point.
Josh Allen got beat up today in that game too. And I mean, the problem is Buffalo can't stop the run. And if you can't stop the run, you're probably not going too far once you get to the postseason. So, we all were pretty high on the Bills after last week. And again, the NFL, highly intoxicated. And there's more of that coming throughout this show. And heck, let's go to Minnesota now, where Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens, who maybe are the favorites in the AFC now, are right up there, and they have a losing record, which is crazy. But they beat the Vikings 27-19. Their defense held Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison to 7 catches and 72 yards combined. Or maybe that was J.J. McCarthy. Yeah, my fantasy shares of those two guys are awful right now. Regardless, let's talk more about this game with Kevin Ostreicher and Locked on Ravens.
Is a win, and that's what the Baltimore Ravens did on Sunday. They won. They beat the Minnesota Vikings. I'm Kevin Ostreicher, the host of Locked on Ravens, 27-19. The final score, certainly a lot closer of a game at the end than maybe people thought it would be, considering how the Ravens played in the second half at times. But in that first half, it was a little shaky, especially in the first quarter. But Baltimore was able to do a couple of things really well. They forced turnovers, something they haven't really been able to do this season. They've done that over the past couple of weeks. They also played clean football, at least relative to what we saw the Vikings do. The Vikings had 1 billion false starts, not even an over-exaggeration there. And Lamar Jackson with timely throws. The Ravens struggled to run the ball at points, but Derrick Henry and Keaton Mitchell both having some timely runs. And the Ravens able to escape Minnesota with a win to move their record to 4-5 and continue having a soft schedule moving forward up until the last couple weeks of the season. So Baltimore looking to make a run here. For more on the Ravens and their Week 10 win, be sure to check out the Locked on Ravens podcast and subscribe on YouTube, part of the Locked on Podcast Network.
It's this simple. Win and you're in. That's kind of going to be the saying for the Baltimore Ravens the rest of the way. You know, Derrick Henry only had 75 rushing yards today. Wasn't the most dominant win. Lamar only 176 through the air, 36 on the ground. But again, they made the plays they needed to make today. The defense, they stepped up at times. They had 2 interceptions. But J.J. McCarthy, you know, you said where was the ball going? It didn't go to Justin. It didn't go to Jordan. That's because Jalen Naylor had 124 yards receiving and a touchdown today. He absolutely got a deep bomb versus the Ravens secondary. I believe that was the deepest pass completed versus the Ravens secondary this year on that play. So, look, Minnesota, they played hard, but the Ravens are kind of rolling. They got momentum. They're still not fully back into the Lamar Jackson experience. But, man, just imagine what he's going to look like a few weeks from now.
No doubt about that. And the Vikings have a J.J. McCarthy problem. I've been saying it in real terms and in fantasy football terms. And I'm just not a believer in the Michigan Wolverine product. So, another team that maybe we were kind of believing in last week and maybe now we're not is the Carolina Panthers. Like, they beat the Green Bay Packers. And everyone's like, whoa, wait a minute. The Panthers may be for real. They beat the Cowboys too, although who cares? The Cowboys stink. So everyone thinks, well, they're going to beat New Orleans, right? They'll beat the pants off this team. Not on this drunk NFL Sunday. They scored 1 touchdown. 1, Carolina. And their defense made Tyler Shuck look like Drew Brees. For more on this one, here's Ross Jackson with Locked On Saints.
New Orleans Saints get their second win of the season, but most importantly, see everything that they needed to see from rookie quarterback Tyler Shuck. Evading pressure, working the pocket, finding open receivers, generating big plays. This was what the New Orleans Saints wanted their fans to see with the guy that they invested the 40th overall selection in. Now the Saints will go into the bye week with a little bit of upward momentum before coming back home to watch Tyler Shuck face the Atlanta Falcons, and everyone's going to be hoping to see him do it again as he ends up being a big reason, along with a strong performance by the New Orleans Saints defense, that the Saints are able to propel themselves to a 17-7 victory. We'll be covering it every step of the way over on Locked On Saints. Make sure you come and check us out.
Yeah, I mean, I was not expecting this at all. Tyler Shuck, and just so people understand just how great he was, Drake May has been the deep ball merchant of the NFL this year. Beautiful deep ball. Tyler Shuck threw a ball against J.C. Horn, mind you, to Chris Olave down the right sideline. That was one of the most beautiful passes that I have seen from any quarterback all season. There wasn't an area of space between J.C. and Chris Olave, but the route was so clean. Olave got loose. JC, because of the momentum and trying to retrack where the ball is, fell down and he caught it and ran right into the end zone. And Fabs, I was looking at my TV and I was just like, this better not be a stroke of luck. You better be this good. So I'm very happy for Saints fans. Hopefully, I want them to have found their franchise quarterback. I hope that he is.
And you mentioned Olave after last week having 4 targets, coming back and have a big game. Juwan Johnson also had a big game. And Alvin Kamara wasn't terrible for the first time in a while. And by the way, I love those white Saints helmets. Those things are just awesome. Swipe coming up next. We're going to talk about the Germany game. Swipe and I are going to have a beer. We're going to have a bratwurst. We're going to talk about the Indianapolis Colts and the Atlanta Falcons. And wait until you hear the numbers that Jonathan Taylor put up. Come on back.
Today's show is brought to you by our friends over there at Peloton. Look, folks, it's time to break through the busiest time of the year with a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus that's powered by Peloton IQ. It's Peloton's most elevated technology and equipment yet that gives you real-time guidance, and it gives you endless ways to move, whether you want to work out by yourself or if you want to work out with your favorite instructor, like my personal favorite, Alex Toussaint. He always gets me fired up to tackle the day. And the thing I like about Peloton, it helps me achieve more in less times. They have features that help you plan, stay motivated, track your progress, and Peloton IQ also provides personalized workout plans and recommendations. That's something that I use right now during the busiest time of the year covering the NFL. They plan my workouts for me based on my mood, my vibe, and also my favorite instructors. So make sure you check it out and use it, because it also helps you correct your form in real time, and it maximizes your reps. It counts your reps so that you can do it smarter, safer, and more efficient. Let yourself run, lift, flex, push, and go. Explore the new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus at onepeloton.com.
If you're a business owner, here's the truth. SaaS promised to make work easier, but now the average company is buried by hundreds of apps that slow down your teams and simply don't work together. That's not SaaS. That is sad software as a disservice. That's why you need Rippling. Rippling is the unified platform for global HR, payroll, IT, and finance all in one place. They've helped millions of businesses replace a mess of disconnected tools with one system designed to give leaders clarity, speed, and control. By uniting your employees, teams, and departments into one system, Rippling removes the bottlenecks, the busy work, and all the silos from your software, which has been created. And everything from onboarding to payroll to IC access runs automatically and perfectly in sync. It's seriously really simple to use, and it gives companies one source of truth for their people, data, and everything they touch. Whether you want to run your entire HR, IT, and finance operations as one, or just fill the gaps in your software stack, Rippling can do it all. And right now, you can get 6 months free when you go to rippling.com/lockedonnfl. Learn more at rippling.com/lockedonnfl. That's rippling.com/lockedonnfl for 6 months free. Terms and conditions apply. Welcome back to, you know it, it's Locked On. It's game night. It's Fabs. And it's Swipa. And we, of course, thank you for making us your first listen of the day. And we thank you for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. That's right. All right, Swappa, let's get back to the action here. And we're going to go to Germany. We're going overseas, where Jonathan Taylor went nuts in Berlin this morning. Okay, 244 yards on the ground. He had another 42 yards as a receiver. He had 3 rushing touchdowns, a lot of fantasy points, by the way. And the Colts came back 31-25 overtime win against the Atlanta Falcons. Let's go to Jake Arthur for more with Locked On Colts.
The Colts somehow survived the Atlanta Falcons out in Berlin, Germany, winning in overtime 31-25, thanks in huge part to Jonathan Taylor and his 286 yards of offense. He also had 3 touchdowns, including an 83-yarder, including the game-winning 8-yarder in overtime. Just truly a remarkable, unbelievable performance by Taylor. The defense came up with several stops when they needed to throughout the game. Some warts there in coverage. We'll get to that later. Some warts on offense. 7 sacks given up, another 2 turnovers by Daniel Jones. But for now, we're going to celebrate this win. We're going to celebrate the fact that the Colts are back, remaining atop the AFC for now, and going into the bye week. Nothing bad can happen to us next week, you guys. Catch us on the Squad Show on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts.
Yeah, it's this simple. I think Jonathan Taylor is running his way into the MVP lead. Now, here is going to be my thing right here. First off, give him credit where credit is due. If you didn't get a chance to watch this game, it is not just that Jonathan Taylor had these massive holes. Now, Atlanta could have done a better job. Jonathan Taylor, on an 83-yard run, I think that's the exact number it was, he gets stymied in the middle of the field. He gets locked in behind the offensive line. He then uses elite vision, elite footwork, gets around to the left side, elite speed, down the sideline, and runs by the entire country of Germany. It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. I couldn't believe my eyes. And then Fabs, game on the line. By the way, Michael Penix, he's going to escape this conversation because we don't have time. He was horrible down the stretch of this game. Drake London should have got more targets down the stretch, didn't get any. What happened is he can't make it happen in overtime. They get ball first. They have to end up getting rid of the ball. I watched the Colts line up in I formation, strong formation, in 12 personnel, and they ran the ball straight at Atlanta. The entire time they were in overtime after they got a great catch and great dime from Daniel Jones to Tyler Warren. And then from that point on, it was literally Jonathan Taylor's show. I was watching this game, Fab, and I was like, please, somebody tackle this man. But it didn't matter. I think if you watch this man play, I think he's had 17 touchdowns already. We could be on pace for a 30-touchdown season for Jonathan Taylor. I don't know if it's going to happen, but that man has been stupendously tacular this year.
He has been, and the Colts are certainly riding his broad shoulders to one of the best records in the AFC. But another team that's got a good record in the AFC, the New England Patriots. They continue to prove that they're serious contenders, and people who say, well, they only beat the Bills. Well, now they beat the Buccaneers. Okay, they're 8-2. Baker Mayfield had 3 touchdowns in the game, but it just was not enough to stop Drake May and Travion Henderson, who finally had a good game. It took 10 weeks, but at least it happened. And for a lot of fantasy managers out there, they were very happy with that. They were also very happy with Baker Mayfield's 3 touchdowns and Emeka Ibuku had a big game, but again, not enough to beat the Patriots. For more on this one, let's go to James Yarko with Locked On Bucs.
The bye week did not get the offense right for the Buccaneers. I am James Yarko, host of Locked On Bucs, talking about the Buccaneers' 28-23 loss to the New England Patriots in the offense after an opening drive touchdown that saw Emeka Ibuka reach the end zone for the 6th time this season. It looked anemic. There's no other way to put it. Meanwhile, the Patriots offense, led by rookie running back Travion Henderson, who had touchdown runs of 69 and 55 in the game, were able to get a massive road win to move to 8-2. This Patriots team is for real, and the Bucs defense gave up some uncharacteristic explosive plays, while the offense still can't seem to get things figured out, even with the return of Luke Gedeke, missing Bucky Irving, missing Mike Evans, missing Chris Godwin. This team still has not found a way to truly be who they are capable of being without those key players on the field. Baker Mayfield was off for much of the game, finished with 273 and 3 touchdowns, but it did not look as good as what the stats would say. For more on this and all things Buccaneers, check out the Locked On Bucs podcast 5 days a week, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yeah, it's this simple. I think Drake May's been the best quarterback in the NFL this year. Now, the question is going to come down to how much do you value what Matthew Stafford is doing, obviously, with the Rams. And, again, I think he has 20 touchdowns in the last 5 games, 0 interceptions. I think he has 25 on the season. Maybe I think it's the exact number in terms of passing touchdowns. So if you want to stay Matthew Stafford, I'm fine with that as well. But I am so impressed. And this is not in a perfect game from Drake May. Like, he clearly had moments where he looked like a young quarterback. But if you just watch the totality of the season, man, he's been spectacular. He's been great. And I want to see him continue to get better. Again, this was not the best game from Drake May. They got a massive game from Travion Henderson, 147 yards. But I'm excited about this Patriots team.
I am too, and it's nice to see them they're going to get more credit now, because a lot of people would say, well, look at the schedule, and they have beaten a lot of bad teams. Well, they beat Buffalo. They beat Tampa Bay. This team is for real. Drake May is a solid NFL quarterback who could be knocking on Elite's door at some point if he's not already. And how about Stephon Diggs? He got into the end zone again. I mean, Diggs has quietly been a very good addition in the offseason, and he's a 31-year-old wide receiver coming off an ACL. So good stuff for Patriots fans out there who go from Tom Brady to a few years and not so good, and now they get Drake May. What a blessed franchise that is. Swipe up. Let's talk about a franchise that's not as blessed, the Jacksonville Jaguars. So they were ahead of the Houston Texans 29-10 going into the fourth quarter. So the game's over, right? No, drunk NFL. Remember I told you that. Davis Mills leads the Texans on 3 fourth-quarter touchdowns, and Sheldon Rankin scored on a 32-yard fumble recovery at the end of the game. Touchdown, 36-29. The Texans come all the way back and win. For more on this one, here's a very dejected Tony Wiggins of Locked On Jaguars.
Unbelievable isn't even the right word. The Jacksonville Jaguars had a 29-10 lead in the fourth quarter in Houston, a game that they not dominating. They weren't dominating statistically, but they were dominating on the scoreboard with turnovers and situational football. And then everything, Murphy's Law, everything and anything that could go wrong went wrong, and nothing that could have gone right to help them goes right. Houston wins the game 36-29. And this was a disheartening game for a lot of reasons. Houston's weakness was their offensive line. They ran the ball down the Jaguars' throat in the fourth quarter, even while being behind. The Jaguars could not run the ball, and they got themselves in situations where they only had at one point 2 yards in the fourth quarter, at the end of the fourth quarter. The Jaguars fall to 5-4 and now have to really, really regroup. Tony Wiggins with Locked On Jaguars.
He has a reason to be dejected. They should have won that game yesterday, but shout out to Davis Mills, man. That was an amazing fourth quarter that he had. And then the Houston Texans defense, they get a ricocheted. Now, I will say the Jaguars could have won this game. And if they didn't get a penalty on the right tackle, he got hands in the face, which was a 5-yard penalty on that play. Trevor Lawrence actually completed an out route to like the 45-yard line on the other side of the field, and Cam Little could have gotten an opportunity he can hit 70-yard field goals. I don't know if people know this. So they could have won the game, but they shouldn't have been in that situation, and they just kind of fumbled everything away.
Yep, a huge comeback for Houston and Jacksonville. I mean, that could be a backbreaker right there. And they were playing in this game without their 2 top wide receivers, Brian Thomas Jr. and, of course, Travis Hunter. And at the end of the day, they were where they needed to be in the fourth quarter, and they could not hold on. Coming up next, the Chicago Bears were this close to a really bad loss to the New York Giants, but then Caleb Williams went from Clark Kent to Superman. That's coming up next on Locked On NFL Game Night. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you miss the start of the season or you want to ride the hot hand in a game, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. Like, think about it. You can make wagers before the game, during the game, while the action's going on. It's just so much fun, and it's right there at your fingertips on the FanDuel app. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. All right, welcome back to Locked On NFL Game Night. I'm Fab C. Swipa. And Caleb Williams, he looked like an absolute dud in the first 3 quarters against the New York Giants. But then he put on his cape, and he made like Superman in the fourth quarter with 2 touchdowns to help the Bears beat the G-Men 24-20. Would have been a bad loss for the Bears. Instead, they turn it around. They come back and win the game. For more on this one, let's go to Joe George from Locked On Bears.
Wasn't pretty, but once again, the Chicago Bears find a way to get the win with great fourth quarter play from Caleb Williams. Joe George of the Bears Squad Show here with you, and Caleb Williams in the clutch of the fourth quarter. He drives the Bears down the field. He gets the touchdown throw to Roma Dunze, and then he does it again after the Giants shank a punt. He runs it into the end zone. A great block by Cole Kmet. Another improbable victory for the Bears. They went 24-20. I cannot believe how clutch this team has been under Ben Johnson. On a day in which, at times, your defense getting gashed in the run game, Jackson Dart was playing really well until the concussion, and you had drops left and right. Zacchaeus, all these guys dropping the football. But the Bears find a way to overcome again, surpass their victory total of last year, now 6-3, and firmly in the playoff hunt with a win over the Giants.
Yeah, it was a great win for the Bears. Obviously would have wished to see Jackson Dart finish this game, but this is kind of a reoccurring theme. He's been getting banged up in a lot of games so far this year in his rookie year. So this is something they're going to need to pay attention to and work on, but he was balling to start this game, man, and I really wish he would have had a chance to keep playing. But Caleb Williams had 63 rushing yards, DeAndre Swift had 80, and the Kyle Monangai had 28. They just ran the ball all over the place. So great ground control for this game. Russell Wilson was not able to do enough to get the win, but shout out to the Bears, man, and move on to 6-3.
And Ben Johnson listened to Roma Dunze's daddy because he had a very good game in this one. And there was little snow flurries going on, man. It's making me excited for like the eventual and hopeful big snow game that we get here as we get deeper into November and then into December. Now let's go to Washington, where the Commanders got absolutely gashed by the Detroit Lions, 44-22. Jared Goff, 3 touchdown passes. Jahmyr Gibbs, 142 on the ground, 3 total touchdowns. And the Commanders swipe at this point, they kind of look like a shell of the team that went to the NFC Championship game not too long ago. For more on this one, let's go to David Harrison with Locked on Commanders.
It pours, and as you can see from the pouring out of Commanders fans behind me with about 12 minutes left in the fourth quarter of Week 10, the Washington Commanders losing streak not only is going to continue, but in many ways is actually going to get worse. Several more players injured in this game, likely at least a couple of them, if not more, will miss at least extended time, potentially next week's game in Spain against the Washington Commanders. But of course, the biggest situation developed around the Washington Commanders is just how do you get this team to that just went to the NFC Championship game less than a year ago to come out and simply play competitive football. The question isn't even necessarily about breaking the losing streak. It's just about being competitive. It's about the lowest we've seen this franchise fall, at least from the heights that they were to now. And answers continue to evade Dan Quinn and his squad. So we'll find out what he's going to say. We'll find out what they're going to do next week and then on into the future. We'll be here for every step of the way on Locked On Commanders, 5 days a week, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team.
Curious, my bad, y'all. What is it going to take for Jared Goff to be in the MVP conversation? Because he's been phenomenal this year. Like I'm looking at his numbers. He had 3 TDs today. He has 20 on the year. He has a 117.7 passer rating. And he's leading maybe the most complicated offense in the league. He's been dominant. Jahmyr Gibbs, phenomenal today. Amon-Ra Jr., phenomenal today. Jameson Williams, phenomenal today. Sam Laporta, phenomenal today. Now, again, the Commanders' defense is horrible. But I think the Lions, they got a win that they needed to get, obviously, after coming off the loss versus the Vikings. But I think Jared Goff, man, he's been really good this year. He deserves a lot of credit.
Yeah, 3 touchdowns against a really bad defense, like you said. The Lions at the end of the day are going to be there, and they're going to be competing for that NFC crown. And hopefully, I'd love to see them get to the Super Bowl personally. And I'm a Cowboys fan, so that tells you what I feel about my team. And then finally, swipe out. We have to go to New Jersey, and probably the worst game of the day. I guess it wasn't worse than Thursday night's game, but it was pretty bad. Listen to this: the New York Jets, 5 catches for 15 yards from their wide receivers and tight ends combined, and they still won the game. They beat the Cleveland Browns 27-20 in an absolute stink bomb. It was gross, man. So I guess let's talk to John Butchkow from Locked On Jets for more on this one.
A wild Jets week ends in a wild Jets victory. The Jets beat the Cleveland Browns 27-20 in Week 10 action, just days after the team traded away 2-star players at the trade deadline. Sauce Gardner's now a Colt. Quinnen Williams is now a Cowboy. The Jets got their second straight win. The team got big plays when they needed them. There was a kickoff return for a touchdown in the first half. There was a punt return for a touchdown in the first half. And in the second half, the Jets reminded us that even though a lot of talent left the team this week, there are still some quality players left on this roster. Breece Hall took the game over in the second half, including a huge touchdown catch that put the Jets ahead. Will McDonald had 4 sacks. Even though a lot of fans want the Jets to lose for draft positioning, this game reminded us that these guys are still going to compete hard the rest of the way, and there are going to be some wins.
Yeah, shout out to the Jets. Shout out Breece Hall, man. That touchdown he had was phenomenal. You just want to see them compete. Both of the teams now, the Browns and the Jets, are 2-7, but the Jets have a lot of ammunition going into the future in the draft. So, look, whatever they decide to do, the players they want to play, they want to earn a contract, and I especially want to see Justin Fields play well down the stretch as well.
As a passer, he is awful, though. I mean, he has just been terrible. We always know that he wasn't a good passer. This was a brutal day, brutal day. And Garrett Wilson got hurt again. So, but the Jets, because of special teams, they ended up holding on and beat a really bad Cleveland Browns team. So, in case you missed any of the other weekend action, the Seattle Seahawks took the Arizona Cardinals behind the woodshed, 44-22. DeMarcus Lawrence.
Wasn't it 20? It was 35-0 at one point, wasn't it?
They were. Yeah, I mean, they were destroying them. They were at one point on pace to score 70. They looked like they were putting a 70 burger on them. This is the second week in a row because they did that to the Commanders as well. DeMarcus Lawrence, former Cowboy, 2 touchdowns, and yeah, he plays defense. And Seattle looks great. And then looking to another team that looks great, the LA Rams. They beat the Niners 42-26. And Matthew Stafford, last week you said MVP, and I was like, okay, really? Stafford had 4 more touchdown passes, and next week, Rams, Seahawks, SoFi for the lead in the NFC West. That is going to be a lot of fun. Swipa, anything else before we wrap up, pal?
Great. Next week, we got both the Broncos and Chiefs, I believe, in the late slot with the Seahawks and the Rams. So we're going to see some heavyweight division matchups, and I can't wait to get to that.
It's going to be a lot of fun, and we will, of course, be back. So hopefully you guys can check us out. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Game Night your first listen of the day. The NFL season is in full swing, and for your second listen, get a double dose of the Locked On NFL podcast. Tyler the Madman Rowland gives you a shot of espresso to start your football day, while Tony Wiggins, who probably needs to take a few shots after the Jaguars blew that game today, takes you into the barbershop for the smoothest breakdowns to end the day. Find Locked On NFL on YouTube or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and Swipa and I will see you next week.